it one and all tonight. It's hopping at the hall tonight. Dropping at the ball tonight. Disney's Halloween treat. Creatures on the prowl tonight. Features fair and foul tonight. They'll meet you there to howl tonight at Disney's Halloween tree.
Welcome to the Medfield College Film Society's second annual Spooky Halloween Special. Psst.
Good.
Avast there. Ye come seeking adventure and salty old pirates, eh? Sure you come to the proper place. But keep a weather eye open and hold on tight with both hands, if you please. First, let me be First, let me be introducing the crew of this vessel. We have the captain, Captain Robert McSwain.
Dead man tells no tales.
And we have his grizzled first mate, Mr. Andy Brown.
Yarr!
And over there in the captain's quarters, we have our historian with his scrolls and his fancy books of reading, Mr. Michael Crawford. Well, I don't have to tell you all, it's no secret. We're here to talk about the Garfield Halloween special.
Yep. That's scary. That's too scary for this podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
Classic.
My kids stumbled onto it the other day, and I was like, you guys going to be all right with this?
Yeah, we were talking about it on Twitter. I was like, hey, you don't mess with that special, man.
Yeah, that's not for the faint of heart. Michael, what are we actually watching for the spooky Halloween special?
Well, today we're watching the old Blackbeard's Ghost from 1968. Directed by Robert Stevenson, a good pirate name if ever I've heard one. Co-produced by Bill Walsh, written by Bill Walsh and Don DeGrady, based on the book by Ben Stahl.
I got that Mary Poppins team, man.
Yeah, it's the A. This movie's got the A team, like,
oh yeah,
from top line down to like all the technical stuff. It's still like the Walt era. Walt was gone by this time, but it's still the Walt era A team, definitely.
Hey, so who would be the B.A. Baracus of this team?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Ain't getting no plane, Hannibal.
Peter Ellenshaw.
Yeah, I ain't doing that, Walt.
I ain't doing it,
Walt. Walt's on the jazz.
We be starring Peter Ustinov, Dean Jones, Suzanne Pleshette, and an all-star cast of that guys and that ladies. We got Elsa Lanchester, the bride of Frankenstein herself. Got Joe B. Baker, who I just wanted to say Joe B. Baker, as the gangster. Joe B. not a very gangstery name. Got Elliot Reed, Shelby himself. Got Richard Deacon, a.k.a. Mel Cooley. And we got Norman Grabowski, who I only put in there because I wanted to say Norman Grabowski. He pops up a lot as... He's the dude that looks kind of like a monkey man. And he pops up in a lot of these Disney movies. He is. He's Merlin Jones's tormentor in those movies. We've got, like I said, this is the A squad. We got Emil Curry and Hal Gaussman on sets, which knock it out of the flipping park in this one. We got Peter Ellenshaw on matte paintings. We got, everybody you expect to see. You got music by Robert Bruner with a very Liberty Square air to it.
Yeah.
Robert Bruner.
He'll be scoring the boat nicks as well.
Yar.
Well, there you go. So this was one of the later, like I said, this was after Walt had passed away, but he had optioned the book itself. He had actually made contact with the author before the book was published, and the author tried to kind of pitch him on it, and he liked what he saw, so he's like, get back to me when you actually finish. And he liked it, so he optioned it himself, and he oversaw most of the production. It was actually the last day he was ever at the studio before he went into the hospital. He visited the set of this movie. So it's something he had a hand in, even though he was gone by the time it came out. So, a lot of standard stalwarts, Dean Jones and Suzanne Pleshette, who were often a combo in some of these later Disney movies. Dean, of course, one of our buddies. So a lot of familiar faces.
Well, I guess it's about time we set sail. Andy, will you take us into the world of the Blackbeard's ghost?
Aye, matey, I will. When a film starts off the way this one does, it chills a man down to his bones. I've heard tell of another film starting this way, about a young Swedish family, Robinson I believe they were, drifting and tossing like a cork in a rough and tumbling sea. Oh, the sea, the sea! It is angry this here day, like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli. Oh! So yeah, we start out with a ship at sea in a storm with some text using a rather hard-to-read font, giving us a quick historical lesson on Edward Teach, a.k.a. Blackbeard the Pirate, and his demise, or so we're led to believe. Walt Disney's Blackbeard's Ghost Star!
I gotta say, the actual title cards for the credits, whoo, that's some design right there. Looking nice.
Yeah. I thought of Robinson too. I was like, are they pulling from their own footage here for this?
That's exactly what I had. That's like, I wonder, what if they just
dipped into the vault?
Yeah.
I also like the ending on, or had he? Yeah. Reminded me of a point in like middle school when I ended every story I wrote with the end, or is it?
Michael, see me after class.
There was a lot of that.
Well, as the credits continue, the storm has passed through, and the tides have settled down, and we're treated to some rather jolly music as the remaining credits roll. Again, using a pretty tough-to-read font. And now there's a car and power lines with no indication of where we are or when we are. Just bam! There were pirates and ships, and now there are cars and electricity.
I noted that their vision of the beach throughout this movie, of the coast, is a lot of power lines. There were so many power lines along the beach.
Commentary,
I guess.
Ecology.
Rural electrification promotion.
So yeah, there's a car, but hey, who's driving that car? Oh yeah, it's our buddy Dean Lovebug and Jones. Although this time no Herbie. Dean is lost and stops to point his flashlight at a road sign, pointing him in the direction of the town of Godolphin. And I have to admit, I have never heard the name or term Godolphin in my life.
I love that this is, I think, judging from everything, the context, it's supposed to take place in the Carolinas, quote unquote.
Okay.
Clearly, no one on the Disney staff had ever been to the Carolinas, judging from these beach scenes and matte paintings.
So I will add, though, there in the Wikipedia, which you could take it or leave it, they said it was happening in New England.
It sure looked like
where
New
Blackbeard
England
died.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So,
they shouted out the Carolinas in the opening crawl, too. They're like from Bermuda to somewhere to the Carolinas. So I don't know. I always assumed it was supposed to be the Carolinas because it got a few shout outs.
I
literally where it happened, but it definitely it looks more like New England / California.
From Disney.com. I pulled it up right now. A small New England town. So
they don't know. They probably copy what
they don't know their history. I mean, the four of us know. The four of us know. You can't come through North Carolina grade school without knowing about Blackbeard's ties to North Carolina and all that.
Of course,
right.
yeah.
That's why I immediately assumed that as well. So anyways, yeah, Dean Jones arrives in the town of Godolphin, which is, of course, by the sea.
Yeah, and the matte paintings are out of this world already.
Yes.
These matte paintings.
Yes.
Just going nuts.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Dean's car is running low on fuel, and he pulls into a filling station and is greeted by a young, chatty attendant. Dean asks the young attendant for directions to Blackbeard's Inn, and the young man says he is headed there as well.
Okay,
and
boy.
He'll show him the way if he gives him a ride. And then Dean Jones agrees and introduces himself as Steve Walker, the new track coach at Godolphin College.
Shout out to his hat, by the way,
say
in these
that.
opening
Jones.
scenes.
Yeah. Whoever dresses that man, he really
You can do it.
They
can
really
really do
catch
it.
the vibe and surf it really well.
And what do you know? The young attendant is also on that very same track team. And he's the captain, in fact. And he shakes his new coach's hand and introduces himself as Gudger Larkin. Gudger. Where are they coming up with these names?
Did anyone catch the actor there?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I recognized him as a guy, but I didn't figure it out.
He's Sir Lancelot.
Yeah, there you go.
There
Well,
you go.
I'll give you a little backstory here. So he was Sir Lancelot, as you pointed out. I recognized him because recently my eldest son has really gotten into the 60s and 70s war epics. And he was in Tora 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 as a...
Which side?
he was a flight student who happened to he got in the middle. This is true. This is a true story. I mean, he wasn't personally, but in the movie, a plane got in the middle of the Japanese attack as they came over Diamond Head, and he played the student pilot who got stuck in the middle of the
Right, yeah.
So that was him, and he also
It's another good role for
we given him a shout out before, but yeah, because he was also a officer in the movie Cat from Outer Space.
Wow.
There you go. All roads lead to...
All roads. Well, it turns out that Gudger is the shot putter on the team, and which is a role that is usually filled by the strongest man on the team. But poor Gudger sure doesn't look the part, much to the surprise of Coach Walker. And so Gudger and Coach, they leave and arrive at Blackbeard's Inn, which is run by a bunch of ladies who apparently are descendants of Blackbeard's crew. Is that right? Did I capture that right? Okay. And they're very proud of it because and just the way we'll get to it. But anyways, they're having a Buccaneer Bazaar tonight to raise money in order to save the inn, because apparently some guy is trying to have the inn torn down, but the old ladies are putting up a pretty good fight to save it.
Oh, man.
Let me just say, I want to give a shout out to a special effects shot when they're driving to the inn.
Oh yeah,
This like multiplane animation shot of the sign for the inn. It's like from Pee-wee's Big Adventure or something. It's just like this hand painted sign moving by the camera like laterally. I don't know why it's so funny to me. But
I read
like
that.
fake headlights on it.
So funny.
didn't even
Also,
notice.
the painting of the inn is
Oh yes,
beautiful.
Yeah. I was going to ask, what did you guys think of that, the way it looked and everything?
Oh, it looks so cool. And, we get to that and we go inside. I mean, that is like one of the top 5 moments of the movies we've watched. Like that moment when they get there and they go inside. It's like, I was dying.
Yeah, the set for this movie is insane in this hotel. I'm obsessed with this hotel.
Yeah.
Like my dream is for them to build this hotel
That's what
at
I'm
Disney
saying.
World on
Yeah.
the
yeah. How
island
is
in
that
Bay
not
Lake.
a thing? Like, yeah,
It looks like it should be.
Do
would
it on
fit in
Discovery
perfectly.
Island. It makes
Do it on Discovery Island, right out there in the middle of the lake. It would fit in perfect.
Oh, man.
Oh,
That's
so
exactly.
good.
I wrote that
Man.
too. It's like they need to build this in real life.
All right, so but before we get inside, Coach Walker's just pulled in and he's about to park his car when this other fancy car sweeps in and takes his spot and out and get these like 4 tough, slimy-looking individuals. But Walker doesn't care. I mean, because before he can give them a piece of his mind, though, Gudger stops him and he's saying, "Hey, that's Silky Seymour, local tough guy."
Silky Seymour.
What a name.
You know those Outer Banks mobsters are really tough.
That's right.
Yeah.
Running all those gambling joints. Yeah, I bet old Silky cuts a lot of ice in Godolphin.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
Silky, not very intimidating mobster, let me just say as we go forward.
Yeah, Gudger tells his coach that Silky is the one who bought the inn's mortgage from the bank, and if the old ladies don't come up with the loot, then out they go. And then so the two find another parking spot, and they head on in where the party is happening, and the music is bumping.
Oh, man.
And this band, all right, this band of old ladies dressed as pirates called the Daughters of the Buccaneers, which is a name that's so perfect and fitting that I really, like you were saying about this inn existing in real life, in the parks, I wish that this band existed in real life. And you could see them like in a corner of like Tortuga Tavern in Adventureland, and you'd be like, it would be so perfect.
The shot of the band just destroyed me. I mean, I could not believe it. And then there's like a lady just carrying around tiny pirate flags. There's all these old ladies.
And the giant portrait of Blackbeard behind
Yes.
it. That whole like set is so great.
Oh my gosh. Just brilliant. Brilliant.
Coach Walker and Gudger walk through the inn and see all the displays and games and other happenings. Then they run into the dean of Godolphin College, Dean Whitten. Gudger introduces him to the new coach, and the dean is less than enthusiastic to meet him. And Dean Gudger tells Walker that he wasn't in favor of replacing the former coach, which is kind of an odd thing to say to the new person. And goes on to tell him about how the track team has never done anything much to bring any luster to the Godolphin name, and he didn't see any point in the program continuing. And poor Gudger's just stand there listening to this. You just see his face just drop.
The dean he's not very nice. Not very nice.
I feel like this is some more big education commentary here going on.
I said always with the sports and academia jokes.
Yeah.
It's going right back to that Medfield well.
Very similar.
Of giving him the razz.
Yeah. And I even thought when I heard that I didn't catch that he was the coach of the Godolphin College at the very beginning. And so for some reason in my mind, I was like, oh, Medfield may be in this. And I was kind of surprised they weren't.
I mean, might as well be.
Should have had a cameo later.
Yeah.
I've said.
I agree. Well, but since the track team has competed in the Broxton Relays for the last 63 years, the alumni insisted on giving the program one more try. And so, Coach is going to have some more the work, kind of cut out for him. But Walker is looking for Miss Stowcroft to get himself a room at the inn. And she's out back behind the inn telling fortunes. But before he and Gudger split, Walker asks him, he's like, what happened to the last coach? And Gudger says that he got to acting real weird and began talking to himself, and then uses another saying, which I'm not familiar with, saying he was real down in the chops.
I've never heard that, but I'm going to start using it.
I've heard chops, like punch him in the chops. It's kind of like a face kind of thing.
Yeah, but real down in the chops.
Down in the chops.
Yeah.
There are a couple of choice phrases in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like maybe a C phrase.
Could be.
As in
Choppy
choppy water.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Well, anyways, wrapping up his explanation, Gudger says that one day the previous coach just disappeared and was gone. And Walker is puzzled by this, but doesn't seem to be too fazed by it, and they just part ways. Well, Coach Walker finds Miss Stowcroft's fortune-telling tent, but before he enters, Dean Whitten calls out to him and introduces him to Mr. Purvis, the football coach. Now, this guy, immediately I got like this Butch Davis physicality, tall.
Butch Davis and Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
I said this was very SEC casting for this football coach. I don't know who he is, but he was straight out of the SEC somewhere.
Dean Whitten and Coach Purvis talk about how great the football team is and the money it brings into the college. And then they're very condescending to Walker about the team and about the track team. Yeah. Purvis tells Walker that at Godolphin, The name of the game is football. That's what makes the merry go round. So he shouldn't get any big ideas. He's just a real nice guy, if you know what I mean.
So
What
I've got
football
a
coach
question.
cares?
Yeah, why would the football coach care anyway? Or he's just being a
Very
jerk?
insecure. He's a very insecure football coach.
Yeah, really. I got a question about the previous track coach. So they say he went crazy, and it's a whole thing. So later in this movie, obviously something happens to Dean Jones that makes everybody think he's going crazy. But, I've seen this before, and I just always made the shortcut in my mind that, well, it was the thing that happened to Gene. It was Blackbeard's ghost that happened to, but the guy didn't have the thing.
Right.
So was it just because the track team was so terrible he went insane? I don't know what they were like going
Yeah, I
for
was having
with
trouble with that too, Michael. Yeah, it didn't
Yep.
make any sense.
It is an unanswered question.
that. And we'll never know.
Unanswerable.
Yeah.
It's in the
I'll also
director's
mention
cut.
I love the AstroTurf backyard.
Yes.
Very ugly dachshund of them.
Well, all this talk seems to kind of embolden Coach Walker, a.k.a. Dean Jones. And as he turns to enter Miss Stowcroft's fortune teller tent called Granny Woman, which I found amusing.
That needs to be in a
that.
park too.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
man. Just be outside the hotel. Like, just keep it. Yeah.
It's so good. Miss Stowcroft is singing to herself and tells Walker to sit down, and she calls him Ishmael. And that feels like that was something I should know, but that was lost to me. Why was she calling him that?
I mean,
Moby
Dick.
the first line of Moby Dick is
Yeah.
"Call me Ishmael." So, but there's no like real joke.
I assume that's
To
just
it
all there
beyond
I
is
didn't
that.
even
to it.
associate
Yeah.
the two.
Yeah, that's all I got. From
I thought it was
yeah.
something biblical almost. I was like, oh, maybe there's some sort of
Sounds
biblical
like
reference.
it.
Shout out
public.
that darn cat. Neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Walker tries to get past this whole role-playing veil, and he asks her about his room that the college has set up for his living accommodations, and a music cue turns the scene a bit more dark. As Stowcroft says, we accommodate the living, but who shall accommodate the dead? And it kind of freaks Walker out a little bit. And she takes his hand, and while reading his palm, she screams, saying there's revelation of dark deeds and violence, things roused up that were better left to rot. But she sees good here, too. Happiness and content for the people of Godolphin, delivered from an ancient evil, and gratitude to Walker, who, again, she calls Ishmael. And he will sacrifice his own life in their delivery. And I have to admit, this little scene right here really kind of raised the bar for me. I was like, oh.
She's selling
could
it
be-
hard.
I am all
Like she's
in
got it
at this
cranked
point.
up.
I'm way in.
Yeah, I mean, the music cue sounds dark and ominous than what she's saying, talking about like dark deeds and violence. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be darker than that. Because again, I've never seen this movie. And so I'm like, oh, this could be good. But so I'm in and I'm ready to see how this plays out. And Walker leaves and he looks over the bazaar and he notices a kissing booth. I still can't believe they used to have these. But so, yeah, he goes over to the kissing booth with this attractive lady running it, or so he thinks. And he walks right up, just throws down $1 and plants a big kiss on her.
And his
Before
look
she-
when he does it. It's just,
Yeah.
Yes, he's so pleased with himself.
Dean on the
Yes.
prowl, man.
Yes.
Were these?
yes.
My question is: were these a thing in real life? Because they're
Yes.
always in movies.
Oh, yeah. I think
Yeah.
for sure they were.
Sure.
I mean, I assume
Definitely.
they were because they're always in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just like it's like a falcon going after a rabbit. He's just like, yeah, swoop.
And he's so confident in it. It's like it's as if nothing crosses his mind. It's so normal. It's as normal as buying a newspaper kind of a
Yeah,
thing. He just
smacks down that dollar.
Yeah.
Lays one on.
Yeah. Well, then she pushes him away, saying that she doesn't work there. She's part of the executive committee. And just then, a young co-ed says that she works there, and Walker is happy to see that, and he throws down another butt without any hesitation, and he plants another long kiss
Oh, no.
on this girl right on the
I
smacker.
love this
Steve.
girl.
Steve.
This girl's got like enormous eyes.
Yes.
She's like, I work here. She's just so into it. She's so happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, like you said, Walker is very happy with himself and the distance this dollar is taking him. But then it gets weird because now the first lady that he kissed removes her badge that says executive committee on it. And she asks Walker if he would like to try the $5 special. And honestly, I have to say, I'm not sure where this is going. This is getting kind of weird. And so Walker, he pulls out the $5 and he hands it to her. And this time she aggressively just takes the side of his face and just really plants one on him.
The sound that he makes when she kisses him needs to be like isolated and reused in other films, like the Wilhelm scream. It's just like it's just
she kisses him hard and just so aggressive
into it. Yeah.
And when she's done, Walker must have liked it because he tries to give her another $5, but it's told only one to a customer, and I don't understand what the purpose of that was. I understand like the confusion around the kissing booth.
I think
that makes sense.
It shows she's a sassy broad.
I guess so.
She's large and in charge.
She has agency, Andy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like she was offended at first, but now she's like, I'll get an extra $5.
Maybe there's more than meets the eye here. Maybe there's something going on between these two.
Well, anyways, a bell rings letting everyone know that the auction is about to begin. And what's this? The lady running it is the same one who was just aggressively kissing Walker. And it turns out she's actually a professor at the college, Professor Baker. And she reminds everyone of the purpose of the auction, which is to save the inn, of course, and asks that all bids be generous.
What
the
a
auction,
dish.
Yeah. The auction begins with an antique pistol, and the opening bid starts at a low $1. And so looking for more money, Professor Baker notices Walker, who gives her this kind of flirty kind of wave. And she uses that as an excuse to say that he just bid $20. And then that kind of spawns a kick or a fury of bids, resulting in the winner taking the pistol for $100. Well, Silky Seymour, remember that guy? He and his boys have been standing in the back of the auction.
I mean, it's
Like
just
the Men in Black.
Yeah, it cracked me up. First of all, that they have like a ship's like bow back there, and they're all like kind of staged on it, just like. It's just amazing.
It's like a bookie with a bad attitude. He's not a gangster. It's like just like
He's
faux gangster stuff.
Those Outer Banks gangsters always interfere in antique auctions.
pencil thin mustache. Yeah.
Joby. I'll say one of his henchmen, aside from Grabowski, is a guy who was the secret agent Klingon in The Trouble with Tribbles, the old Star Trek episode.
Wow.
The antagonist in that.
Yeah, Silky and his boys, they don't like this one bit, so he sends them in because he wants the inn for some reason and doesn't really take any chances with the Daughters of the Buccaneers raising enough money to save it. Yeah, so his goons move in and they start sowing seeds of doubt and deception, telling the man who'd won the pistol that he got taken. It's fake. And they start telling other bidders that the other items are fake too and they shouldn't bid any more money. Well, then the next item up for bid is a bed warmer, which belonged to Aldetha Teach, who was the 10th wife of Captain Blackbeard. And Coach Walker observes and overhears Seymour's goons spreading these lies. And when no one bids on the warmer, he opens the bidding at $5. Well, old nervous Virgil Purvis, the football coach, couldn't stand it. And he just comes over and he couldn't stand the fact that Walker is being seen in a positive light. He's just so insecure.
Really?
He decides to get into a bidding war with him. And so Purvis gets the bid up to $100 and is already reaching for his checkbook. But then Silky Seymour, again, does not like that these items are going for so high. And so he walks up to Walker and he starts suggesting that Walker doesn't bid anymore. And then Walker's kind of like, well, why not? And Silky says, nah, no reason. I just don't want you to do it. And Walker's unimpressed, just immediately bids $200, which of course wins the bed warmer and upsets both Purvis and Silky. Later, after the auction, Walker finds Professor Baker counting money and they start chatting. And she says that even though they did better than expected, the ladies still owe Seymour $38,000 before the end of the month. Walker asks her why Silky Seymour is so interested in the place, and she explains how, due to the river changing course, the island that the inn is on is in a legal jurisdiction no man's land. And because this would allow Seymour to tear down the inn and build a casino, and the law can't bother him. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but this seems to be a pretty flimsy premise.
Yeah,
It's like they don't know which side of the river it should be on, which I'm like, is it another state?
Yeah.
Which would not matter anywhere on the East Coast. Very weird.
Well, it's funny. You keep talking about the Outer Banks. That an island appeared off Cape Hatteras a few years ago. It's like a sandbar that was giant, and this guy just claimed it. But then
That's right.
he wasn't.
I forgot
allowed
about
to
that.
keep
Yeah,
it.
they did.
He's like, it's mine.
Didn't they go
Maybe
to
that's
court
what they're
over it?
trying to operate under. Yeah, but just like not
His name
knowing
was
which
Silky
side
Seymour.
of the river it belongs to is not.
Silky
Maybe it
Seymour.
was Silky. I do like there's a moment here where she's got a handy map on the wall behind her, and she's just kind of like doing the weather person, like point and talk thing. And he's not listening at all. He's checking her out. He's just like, hello. Just giving her the up and down.
Yeah, and then he gives her a smooth line because she thanks him for all the bids, and he gives her this smooth line saying, well, he kept bidding because it made her smile. I was like, that's good.
Good one.
And this, of course, makes her smile again. But then here comes old nervous Coach Purvis, and he's got some sort of relationship with Professor Baker because he's giving her a ride home, I think. And then Baker and Walker, they bid each other goodnight, and she leaves with the football coach. Miss Stowcroft shows Coach Walker to his room. She is putting him in Blackbeard's old room and begins telling tales of how they sometimes hear him stomping around and breaking glasses when he's angry. And, the coach is just kind of like, what? But then that same haunting music cue that we heard in Granny Woman's fortune-telling tent starts up again, and Walker listens to Miss Stowcroft's tales. And she says none of it is the captain's fault. It's Alditha's, his last wife, and reminds him that his newly won warming pan belonged to her.
That painting.
Man, I want a print of that painting, man.
Yes, she walks over to this painting on the wall of Alditha, who, to me, totally looks like Winona Ryder.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Also, just looks straight out of the Haunted Mansion. Stylistically.
And it turns out Alditha was a witch. And when she was burned at the stake, she put a curse on Blackbeard, telling him that when it was his time to die, his body and soul would be racked between this world and the next, always to be alone. And Stowcroft's really selling it too. She's doing a really good job of this. And again, this is really building up the suspense for me. I mean, now we've got a witch story combined with what she said as the fortune teller, and Stowcroft gave Walker this. It's just so much anticipation. I'm like, okay, this movie is about to be amazing. And so I'm really feeling good about it at this point.
Yeah, the whole like the setup, the idea, great.
Yeah. And she finishes her tales. Then she ends with this maniacal laughter. And then she instantly turns off the theatrics and leaves, wishing him well.
Which was great.
That was great. Yeah. It kind of leaves him stunned, standing there, mouth wide open. And then, while getting ready for bed, Walker sits on the bed and he hears a crunch. And oh no, he's sat down on the bed and he's just broken the handle off the bed warmer that he paid $200 for. But then he notices something in the handle, which is an old document of some sort. And in inspecting it further, he discovers that it's Alditha Teach's book of spells and conjurations. And he kind of begins to skim through it, a few of the spells, and he finds one saying, a spell to bring to your eyes and ears one who is bound in limbo. What are the odds of him finding that spell?
And why is that the one he picks?
Yeah.
I know, like all the other ones sound pretty good too.
He reads the spell, and immediately lightning and thunderclap and a gust of wind blows open the window, which he quickly shuts, and Walker dismisses it all as ridiculous. However, as he begins to unpack his suitcase, materializing from a red glow is the dreaded pirate himself, Captain Blackbeard.
Pretty cool effect.
This effect is legit cool, yeah. Especially, I mean, considering the era, definitely.
I don't know. It gave me a little bit of a Star Trek kind of vibe.
Yeah, but I like the negative. It's like negative, like photo negative ghost formation or something. I don't know how you'd say it, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Well, anyways, this was the moment my hopes of an interesting movie were dashed. Because the same jolly harpsichord music began playing when Blackbeard shows up. And instead of being a scary pirate, he just looks and sounds like very comical. And to me, it just sounds comical and ridiculous.
There's definitely some Jack Sparrowing going on here.
Definitely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this the same actor that did Prince John?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so I could not stop hearing that.
It's very
just close
distinctive.
my eyes.
Yeah, it is.
Peter Ustinov. Yeah.
Coach Walker doesn't believe what he's seeing and dismisses it all as just being overtired. I think saying something like he's been driving since 5 a.m. and he's hungry. And so he doesn't believe anything until he feels the sharp, cold steel of Blackbeard's sword in his chest. And then he finally accepts his new reality. Blackbeard goes on about his hatred of Alditha and things he's done to his other wives, but really he just wants some rum. Don't we all? And when Walker says he doesn't have any, Blackbeard heads downstairs to the bar. Watching from the hallway balcony, Walker observes Blackbeard grabbing a bottle of rum just as Miss Stowcroft walks past him, and she totally doesn't see him because he's only visible and audible to Walker. Walker just wants to go to bed and tells Blackbeard to leave, but Blackbeard refuses and gets mad at Walker, telling him, "I don't care for the cut of your jib." That gave me a chuckle. That was very like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Blackbeard doesn't want to hear Walker's complaints because he's not fond of him either, but says they're stuck together and he better make the best of it. After an odd couple-like argument over who gets to sleep in the bed, they end up sharing it. But then Blackbeard starts doing this like reenacting of memories. I mean, like his past adventures.
Yes.
I gotta say, I know this turned it off for you, but I was still very excited when he showed up and them arguing about the bed. Just seeing what he did to Dean Jones and Dean Jones playing off of him really cracked me up at the beginning. I was really loving it.
This movie has like huge portions of the script must have just been bits of business,
right,
written in. Like, just wind Ustinov up, boys. Let him go. Just let him go, because that's what he's just like. Oh, fast!
Yeah.
Just having sword fights in the bed and everything.
It feels like almost he was improvising that. And just there's like letting
I'm
out.
almost certain, he was.
Like, how do you even script that if you tried?
Yeah, it's wild.
I was hoping he was a method actor. Yeah. I just wish he was a method actor and was like stayed in character the entire time. That would have been great.
You had to call him Captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't answer unless you said Captain Blackbeard.
Yeah.
Well, Walker's had enough of this, and he decides to get out of here, and he leaves the inn altogether. He'd rather go down to the Ye Jolly Roger Motel instead. I really wish we got to see that.
Yes. I know. That sounded so promising.
Well, before you can get there, Walker's driving in his convertible car in the nighttime sea air, and he's feeling much better because he's convinced that Blackbeard was just a figment of his imagination. But unfortunately for him, and me personally, I guess, Blackbeard appears in the back seat with his bottle of rum, and hearing the glugging and smelling the alcohol, Walker realizes he was wrong, and Blackbeard's ghost was indeed real. After Blackbeard gives a sob story about how alone he's been, he asks a great question, which is, what kind of craft are they traveling in?
Yeah.
And of course, he's referring to
I love
Walker's
that,
car.
like, Dean Jones's first reaction of showing up is he's like, a rummy.
Yeah.
You don't hear that term enough anymore.
Yeah, certainly not enough. Yes.
Furthering people. Oh, he's just a dirty old rummy.
Blackbeard decides to take over the helm as he calls it, and he grabs the steering wheel and puts his foot down on the accelerator pedal. And fighting to regain control, Walker and Blackbeard just recklessly drive through town, just destroying all kinds of private property. And at one point,
lots of familiar homes in that town.
Yeah. Noticed a lot of them. A lot of sped up film in that town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a massive jump cut from like driving on the 101 out in California to suddenly on the Disney lot. It's so weird. It's like, oh, he hits the gas and suddenly we're not on the beach. We're in this like residential neighborhood. He like does hyper speed and we've got like rear projected careening through Ned Brainerd's neighborhood.
Yep.
The speeding up thing I've always thought it was weird. I was like, it feels like it's unnecessary.
It always made me wonder, like, wasn't it very obvious to people at the time? I mean, surely it would be, because I remember as a kid it was. It looked weird.
Yeah. And, I mean, why do you need it to be that fast? Just have it be regular. Yeah. So unnecessary, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, even like a quarter of that would have been, would have given it just a little bit of an edge. But
they do it in so many movies of this era. Like, I think like James Bond movies, they do it.
Yeah.
It's just it was just a method that everyone accepted back then. It's weird.
It's like probably like the bad CGI now with like the, whatever, all the bugs, CGI or whatever that's going on now.
Yeah, so they're driving around, they're just destroying private property, and then they almost kill a police officer. But then the police officer recovers, and he jumps on his motorcycle and begins to pursue him. And Walker finally gets a handle of during the chaos, and he brings the car to a screeching stop, which sends Blackbeard flying off the hood, and he gives a nice little line. He's like, man overboard. And that made me laugh. I thought that was good.
Got a standard issue Disney cop here.
Yep.
Yeah. And a very calm and understanding police officer.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. He's like, it's okay, mister. It happens. Just gotta go with it.
Yeah, he sees the bottle of rum in the front seat, and he's like, oh, you've been getting your nose wet somewhere. And of course, Blackbeard's upset that his bottle of rum has been taken away, so he's trying to get it back, and he's struggling with the police officer. Then, of course, he starts struggling with Walker, but then Blackbeard, of course, is not visible to the police officer, and so it's just again another round of chaos, and it appears Walker is fighting with himself, and then he speaks. He says something like, I think he says, "Cut it out, Blackbeard," or something like that, and that's what sets off the cop. That's what makes him upset. He's like, hey, there's no need for epithets, or I'm only trying to do my job. It's like you just had a drunk driver, and that's how you're reacting.
Different time, man.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's just a regular night.
Well, yeah. So then the policeman begins to write up a ticket for Walker, and Blackbeard takes his pencil and his ticket pad, and some more invisible hijinks ensue. And then the policeman finally gets tough when, So this is where he thinks Walker calls him Blackbeard, and he pulls out his gun, and Blackbeard steals the gun from the police officer, and he starts spinning around his finger.
I have a question.
Sends bullets flying into Walker's windshield and headlights, and finally hits his tire. Yeah.
First of all, the noise when the pencil comes out of the police officer's hand, like, whew. It's just, it's amazing. It's just one of those things. I mean, it's a comedy. I get it. But it's just like one of those things of like, why would the policeman suspect Steve?
Right.
Of anything. It's like, there's like a revolver in the air, like spinning and shooting. What is this guy up to? What is he doing? It's like, how can he control
pencils
that?
Floating away from me in the air. Clearly, this man is to blame and should be arrested. And then my motorcycle starts going around in circles. And while he's sitting right there,
and he's just like, and Steve is totally like, yeah, well, you got me. It's like he didn't do anything wrong.
I will have to say that there's a lot of stuff in this movie that today would take a guy on a computer like 5 minutes to put together, and no one would even think about it. But like stuff like the pencil breaking and the notepad floating in the air and the sheets getting torn one after the other. I mean, there was no digital, obviously, and so they had to do it all with, I guess, wires and piano wire. I don't know how they did it. It all looks really good, though. Yeah. I mean, it looks like you can't see like, oh, that's just a pencil hanging from a string, because it like floats off and then it breaks. And I don't know. It's stuff that's not flashy, but would still be hard to do.
Yeah, the tickets flying off the pad, the ticket pad. And that looked really good.
Yeah, like I don't know how they did that. So a lot of credit for like really simple but effective like practical stuff.
Yeah. So again, I know you guys probably don't feel this way, but for me at this point, I'm like, okay, I may be done with this movie now. And I was like, surely this won't get any sillier, but
it's just
as you guys said,
it's too much.
Blackbeard, Blackbeard decides to take the policeman's motorcycle and knows not only how to start it, but also how to drive it. And he chases the policeman around with it, and he even lets out a woohoo, which is very young Anakin Skywalker.
Wizard.
Blackbeard crashes the motorcycle into a tree, and knowing he's pretty much screwed at this point, Walker offers his wrists to the policeman to be handcuffed. And
his take was pretty funny.
Was this was good. The policeman kind of like thinks about it, kind of considers it, and he agrees. Yes, I should arrest you.
So Jeff, can you take a stab at the radio call when the motorcycle crashes?
Oh man, I thought about that at the time. I have no stab. It's very garbled.
Garble corner of.
They get in a good see the man.
They've got to always do that. That's just always their thing.
That's their thing.
I thought about what was it? What were we watching? Is it Son of Flubber? I hear water.
That's what I was thinking. Yes. It always just to fade out too. That's the thing that always gets me.
That's right.
Well, this brings Act 1 to a close.
Turn off the key! Think you can get away from me, do you?
Steve Walker is in the slammer. Or the tank, if you will.
Should have an Elvis movie like song here, put in a song.
Yeah, and we've already mentioned this, but I'm confused as to why you would be locked up for a motorcycle driving itself, a gun shooting off by itself, pencils flying, paper ripping, and somehow poor old Steve is to blame. Andy, how's this plot working for you so far?
I think we've clearly established that I'm no longer on board this ship.
Boys, Andy's a jumped ship here. He's gone overboard. Steve's got Aldetha's spell book and decides to pop it open for another look-see. Suddenly, Blackbeard shows up. Steve puts the fairly obvious puzzle together that old Captain Blackbeard needs to do something good to be released from the curse and cross over to the other side, whatever that would be. Blackbeard says he's never done anything good. If only there was a group that was down and out that could use some pirate gold to get out of a tough spot. So Steve suggests he give his treasure to the old ladies at the lodge. Then they would name schools and parks and bridges after him.
Which I thought was a hilarious argument.
It's like, picture it. Teach elementary.
Right.
Oh, really, lad? Oh.
Only to find out there is no treasure. He spent it all. Angered by Blackbeard's greed, Steve calls him a phony. And poor Blackbeard goes back to his bottle only to find that she's run aground. Which I thought that was a pretty good line. Oh, I've run aground. Back at Godolphin College, the coach, who's sporting a really nice coach sweater, which
Godolphin is one of the fancier Outer Banks colleges, just judging from the establishing shot.
the coach in his coach sweater is calling for Steve to be fired, and probably rightly so. He's in the slammer after all. But the dean says he was released for lack of evidence. Well,
Hey, he says he was stoned.
He's stoned. I love the coach is kind of like a Brooklyn tough guy. When you're stoned.
But the coach says that science is doing all kinds of stuff in regards to neutralizing booze with pills and other.
They got pills that counteract the booze.
Make guys run faster and.
Like, what are you into, coach?
Yeah, really.
Why does the coach care again? I don't understand.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe he was a ex-track athlete who got, abused by his coach. He's like traumatized.
That'll be in the upcoming origin story movie
the
for
origin
Disney Plus.
story. It's
Coach.
Yeah, he was the what was the attendant? What's the kid's name? Oh, Gudger. Yeah, he was the Gudger.
Gudger of his team.
Yeah.
I bulked up after.
Joanne stands up for Steve and says he's the only one that didn't let old Silky Seymour bully him at the auction. The dean makes his ruling, and the track team will compete at the Broxton Relays.
Joanne's the professor. What's her name?
Baker.
Professor Baker. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I missed the first name. So okay.
At the track, Steve is seeing what he has to work with on his new track team, which begs the question, wouldn't he have known this already? I mean, you don't interview for a job and blindly, I wouldn't think. And just
Maybe. Godolphin just plays it by ear.
So he has guys who are scared of the starting gun fire and guys who can't clear a hurdle. And
That hurdle guy.
the hurdle guy was on point.
He's like in full length sleeve and leg sweats and just lurching. It was pretty great.
Great.
As the team hits the showers, Blackbeard shows up drunk again and gives a pep talk to Steve, who's a little down and out with the sight of his track team. Blackbeard says he became a terror because he trained his men to win at all cost, implying they cheated if needed. Steve is not having any of it and storms off. As Steve crosses campus, Joanne and the dean are watching Dean Jones do some solid mime work as they wonder why Steve is talking to himself and seemingly performing mime work on campus. I mean, it's just really Dean Jones is great. I love that. I love that shot of them looking down and Dean's like getting dragged around by the cuff. And,
Yeah.
The Disney studio.
Yeah.
Joanne isn't sure why he's acting this way. She hasn't had a close range view, but she's going to have dinner with him and get to the bottom of it.
She's a professor of child developmental psychology.
Okay. I missed that too.
Yeah, the dean sort of mentions that. It feels like that was
I know your
plot
specialty
hole
is
that
children.
the writers were like, oh, we got to do something here. Over at Silky's place, Steve and Joanne and Blackbeard show up, which first thing I thought was, why are they going to Silky's place to eat dinner of all the places to go to? But
They cover that too.
they cover that. The writers were on the ball. As they walk in, Joanne says, this is the only place in town. So
Let me
there
tell
they
you,
are.
Silky's place.
Yeah.
This is a niche joke that literally only 3 people will understand, being 3 of us. But Silky's place got a real Jackson's Cafeteria vibe to it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what hit me right between the eyes the second they went in.
Thought about that.
It's
I was at Jackson's about 4 weeks ago.
Is it still there?
Well, there's one in Gastonia. So
A whole
and I've
franchise.
been trying to lure Jeff down just to go to it.
Oh yeah, I'm going next time I come down. I'm going there for sure. This place is incredible. And they've added they add the aquariums to the Jackson's cafeteria aesthetic.
Yes,
you know?
so many aquariums. And they've got a bar, too, which Jackson's never had.
Jackson's needs a bar for sure.
Yeah, they got a standard issue, that guy at the bar, too. So that's nice.
Does Jackson's have like huge menus as well, like this place does?
Oh, we're getting to that. Yes.
Okay.
So, Steve starts to tell his story about conjuring up Blackbeard when Joanne pulls out a wad of cash that she's just toting around, a large wad of cash. She says she's taking it to the bank for the Daughters of the Buccaneers. Blackbeard notices the wad while peering through a fish tank. Steve starts looking for Blackbeard to show up. As Joanne gets concerned, Steve begins to tell her about Blackbeard. Joanne humors Steve, and they decide to order from enormous menus, like 18 by 24 inches across menus.
So I love that, because when they come in, Silky like meets them at the door and is like trying to like schmooze them. He's like, "Let me buy you a good lobster dinner." I don't know. I just thought it was really funny. Let me get you a good lobster dinner.
So when they build this hotel on Discovery Island, and they put the restaurant in it, they have to have enormous menus. I mean, that's just...
Yes.
I mean, you got to have the callback to Silky's.
But they also have to have the item that they order, which may be my favorite thing in the entire movie for some reason, besides the design of the hotel. They are recommended the shore dinner.
Oh,
the shore dinner is very nice. Oh, we'll have 2 shore dinners. Like, well, I want to know what that is.
Well, evidently it comes with a dessert, but we'll get to that in a minute. Yes. All the while, Blackbeard
and a salad.
And a salad. All the while, Blackbeard is lurking around, trying to not be seen by Steve in hopes that he can get his hands on that sweet cash. Blackbeard, lying on the floor, accidentally trips the waiter, who knocks Joanne's purse and her wad on the ground. He quickly snatches it up and runs to the betting parlor and lays a bet on Godolphin to win in the relay.
Let's talk about the pratfall, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true.
Yes.
I mean, the pratfall this guy takes is extreme.
Yes. Major league pratfall.
Yeah. And he does, spoiler, he does it twice. And it is pretty intense. He gets up there.
You know, when he goes into the gambling room, and I think the character's name's Danny, and he's the one that places, like, because Blackbeard has to disguise his bet through someone else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the actor that plays Danny, I don't know if you guys recognize this guy. No. He's played by Herb Vigran, who was he was on the Andy Griffith Show, and he played the barber in The Bookie Barber, the one that sets up the gambling in Floyd's barbershop.
Oh, so typecast.
Call Central Casting.
Exactly.
We need the bookie guy.
The bookie himself was Ned Glass, who was in the movie Charade. He jumped out at me.
Yes, he did jump out at me too. It's good that Blackbeard knew the kind of protocol of betting in the 20th century.
Of making book on dog races. Yeah. I still love that it's dog races. Why?
He doesn't seem to be like wowed by the television, but the car really blew his mind. But anyway,
you can never tell what's going to
roulette and his dog bets.
I just got to say, his handwriting is incredible.
His handwriting is amazing.
Beautiful penmanship.
Yes, nice penmanship for the pirate there.
That jumped out at me. I was like, man, I'm going to have to take.
He was a real scoundrel, but he had some mighty fine handwriting.
Nice script you've got there,
Blackbeard. Nice script there. So Blackbeard switches the bet with a customer, Danny, and the bookie goes to Silky and says, "What's the odds on Godolphin to win?" He says, 50-1 on a $900 bet. Just pulls it out of the air. Because he's, I guess Danny was an old-time customer. He's just doing him a favor. Mm-hmm. The bet is placed, and Blackbeard slips the other bet in, but Danny doesn't seem to care or follow up with the first bet when the bookie's like, "Hey, you already laid a bet. What are you doing laying a second bet?" And Danny's like, "Hey, shut up and take my money." So
pay attention to your money, Danny.
Yeah, really.
Danny. Back at the table, Joanne is encouraging Steve to ignore Blackbeard and just tell him to go away. Real sound psychological advice there. Just ignore it. Make it go away. Just ignore it.
Yeah, stop being depressed.
Stop being depressed. Just ignore
be
it.
happy.
Just cheer up. Just cheer up.
Blackbeard trips the waiter again, who this time tosses 2 sundaes in the air, and then the waiter comes up with 2 large scoops of vanilla and a cherry.
It's really weird looking BTW.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yes.
Blackbeard snatches the purse and slips the betting receipt in. I assume.
Yeah.
As they leave, the bottle of rum floats out the door and concludes the second act.
Again and again. Once more, lad, sing out, don't fumble. Come, cheer up, the lads, 'tis to glory we steer. With heads bearing high, we will banish all fear. To honor we call, you are free, men not slaves. For who are so free as the sons of the way? Hearts of oak are our shoes, jolly cars are our men. We'll always be ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again.
We fade into a packed stadium, Broxton Field, and we cut to the telecast of the Broxton Invitational Relays. Finally, the Broxton Relays we've been hearing about, hosted by none other than Mel Willis, also known as Shelby Ashton.
Wearing a really nice hat, I must say.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, I was delighted to see Shelby.
I was delighted to see Shelby, and then the Broxton Relays happened. It's a meet of 4 colleges, 3 of which are great, and then there's Godolphin, which has seen better days, as we know. In the
But no Medfield or Rutland cameo.
I mean, come on, that's easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Do
low-hanging
Broxton,
fruit there,
Medfield,
writers.
Rutland, Godolphin.
Yeah.
In the locker room, Steve lathers the team up with a rousing speech. And the team runs out, knocking into Joanne, who has come in to inquire on what happened to her money. She believes that Steve may have been responsible for taking the money, and yet she says, your motives were good, but your actions were completely idiotic.
But how does she think he did it?
Right. There's
Yeah.
so many questions.
There's a lot of plot holes there.
Yes. Steve hears Blackbeard singing and finds him in the dressing room about to drink rubbing alcohol. He stops him. Says,
Guys,
he's
I'm starting to think Blackbeard's got a problem.
Yeah. And he's laying on the trainer table. And it gives me like a Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park kind of vibe. His head is like a shirt, bare chested.
Yeah. Drinking, rubbing alcohol. The guy's down by the railroad track in Shelby.
Oh, man. It's a deep cut right there in many ways. Blackbeard is intending to ensure victory by any means necessary. Steve says, hands off, no cheating allowed. He's really a man of principle, you know? It's like a tale of 2 different coaches.
Ridiculously so,
Yeah,
yes.
well, of course. We get a long Blackbeard monologue, pouting and not liking that. But back on the field, things aren't going well. And just like the Flubber movies, the difference in the athletes between the dominant schools and the home team couldn't be more marked. We have a discus thrower who is jacked. I mean, this dude is ridiculous.
Terrifying.
I mean, he
He's
looks
like
like
in his
me.
late
It's just
30s,
ridiculous.
too. I mean, it's not even...
Yeah, all these guys are at least 30. Like every athlete in the movie is at least 30.
I mean, can I just say, Disney, stay away from sports. Like, God, you're killing me. You are killing me here.
Like apparently in the original book, the protagonist was not a guy. It wasn't Dean Jones. It was like a couple of kids, like high school kids, maybe, I don't know, or younger, who find this thing and discover Blackbeard, and then stuff happens. But they changed it to be a single guy so they could have him be the coach because they love sports gags so much. And they wanted to have sports gags.
It could have easily been, that would have been great. 2 kids find it. It could have been a guy just coming through town. I mean, it could have just been a guy driving through town looking for a place to stay. This is totally not necessary and infuriating. Joanne approaches the loan shark, Silky, asking if they can cancel the bet. He refuses. Joanne asks what will happen to all the lovely ladies, and this guy is just cold-blooded. Doesn't seem to care.
Cold-blooded.
And the whole time, Blackbeard is on the roof, witnessing the whole thing. Well, he stands up and breaks his rum bottle and shakes the ticket booth with an extended shot of the poor ticket taker in the ticket booth.
So weird.
It's very weird. A beat too long.
What's happening?
Oh,
I think it would have been funnier if like everybody just sort of accepted it. Like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
we have a high jumper for Godolphin, and he flips up through the air and unnaturally going way above the bar. So Blackbeard is at work now.
Which I admit, I laughed.
Yeah,
I did
I
laugh
laughed
a
at
little
a lot of these flinging people through the air jokes, because I would give anything to go into the salt mine and find all the like outtakes and B-roll of them throwing people through the air for these gags.
Oh, but it goes on for so long.
I know, but it's so ridiculous. Like every now and again, they'll get in a good one where they'll show a guy just flying through the air, and he's whoa.
Yeah,
and it gets me every time. They're like in another dimension, but they're like it's like a cat falling or something.
Yes.
Well, they've really perfected the wire technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a special.
I mean,
I
it's
just-
all good. Like you can never see, oh, there's the harness or whatever.
I just feel like the production meeting, the director going, so we got to get a guy to fly over a pole vault. The special effects director just peers over his glasses and nods and goes back to reading his paper.
It does like a little check with his
Call me when you
pencil
got
and-
something hard to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the opposite way around. It feels like they spent a lot of money on the rig to do this, and they're like, all right, we got to get our money's worth.
Yeah.
So let's write
Yeah,
a
there's
movie
that.
around
Yeah,
it for sure.
it's the absent-minded professor rig. There's
Yeah.
Yeah.
pulling it back out again.
Let me say, I love that Shelby's doing his little commentary, and he's so Shelby.
Yes.
He is.
I mean, he is that same like smug. He's such a jerk. But he's sitting at his little desk doing his like talking to the camera routine. He's got a little telephone there on his desk. I don't know why I thought that was a funny, weird detail. Like, who are you calling, Shelby, from the field? But he's just talking into the camera.
Oh, yeah. And he goes through this whole event. We see the final lap of the mile run with Blackbeard tripping opposing players and turning them around. And Godolphin wins the mile run. And we see Blackbeard dancing with the cheerleaders. Steve chases him down and gets surrounded by the cheerleaders, which is just so ridiculous.
He's a pretty good little dancer. That
Oh, yeah.
Peter Ustinov.
Oh, yeah. Blackbeard
Spry.
Blackbeard escapes and helps someone throw a javelin into the scoreboard, which is just ridiculous. He's like carrying the javelin the whole way and then chucks it. Steve is racing down the javelin, and the judges are intervening to stop him from stopping the competition. He tries to file a complaint with the judges, and they're incredulous. You know, who is this guy trying to sabotage his own team? What's going on here?
Which is like, at this point, Steve, just let it go, man.
For
Just
real.
Let it go.
It's like a tale of two, coaches that have been coached to the extreme. We got the football coach who's been traumatized by a track coach. I mean, did Steve's coach cheat a lot or not cheat a lot?
He's forced him to like take a fall.
Yeah.
Take a dive.
Who knows? But shot put, same thing. Blackbeard slaps down several players' throws, which I loved, and carries the Godolphin player's shot put into the TV crew, leading to an amazing yell by Mel or Shelby Ashton. It was really
The scream and then the TV signal that followed.
Yes.
The animation of like the broken TV camera signal. I laughed so hard. That scream was terrifying.
It was so terrifying. The man could project in moments of terror for sure.
Yeah. It's like him getting hit by lightning in the fishman costume.
Exactly.
There was an effect before this where I don't even remember what got thrown into the stands, but it flew into the popcorn guy selling popcorn had this big like popcorn like caddy. And whatever it was went in the popcorn, and they must have had like air compressors or something, because the popcorn poof effect is incredible. It's like a meteor hit the popcorn. The popcorn just into the air. I also noted that Shelby, at least they knew enough about the East Coast to have a East Coast TV call sign. He was WCJL, which is actually in Savannah, Georgia.
There we go.
Just a little trivia for you there.
There we go.
But at least it wasn't a West Coast TV camera.
That's true. We're on to the pole vault. Blackbeard cuts the pole of the opposing player with his sword. Meanwhile, in the stands, Joanne is starting to taunt old Silky. Not
a good look.
Which, bold.
Don't taunt the gangster.
I would not say such things if I were you.
Also, the dean of Godolphin, man, he is stoked because evidently he really hates football, which he keeps yelling at the football coach. It's just totally bizarre.
It was repressed. You could tell. He was hiding something deep down and denying his true self, and then all of a sudden he has been released.
And it's like he is super extra in this scene.
Is this the payoff for the whole football plot line? Just this?
I guess so, because we really never hear from the coach again, do we?
Yeah, that's it for the coach. Coach, it's a wrap on the coach.
Yep. Let's invest in this plot
is like yelling into the camera. He is
intense.
just screaming like straight on into the camera. It's crazy.
So yeah, that's why you set up something so you can just have him yell that he hates football.
I hate football. Go Dolphin!
Blackbeard shows up stoked and asks Steve what he thinks, how you think it's going. Steve reads him the riot act. Man, what is wrong with Steve? Come on,
Steve
man.
Steve is a dope. Dean often he's doing a very Dean Jones sort of thing, which I've noticed watching all these movies. Often kind of a dope.
Yep.
It's like, I'll also note that one of the he's got like a referee on each arm kind of holding him back throughout this whole thing. One of them I thought was Ray Liotta when it cut to him. He looks just like Ray Liotta. It's so weird.
I thought that too. That's so weird. Yeah, it really does.
I was like, because it got a full like facial shot, like close up. I was like, Ray Liotta.
Well, Blackbeard thinks he's helping the old ladies. Steve says, you haven't helped anyone. So Blackbeard says he will stay out of his affairs and leave him alone. Steve is doing this all in front of the judges, who of course think he's nuts. And now it all comes down to one event, the relay. From the beginning, the relay doesn't appear to be going well, and Mel is ready to call it a day on the telecast, which is funny.
Well, folks, it's it's so Shelby.
They really should have gotten Paul Lynn to be the TV guy.
Oh man,
brought him back.
That's the Paul Lynn for anything.
Yeah, that's the gold standard.
Well, here we are again, folks. Medfield's going to fall on their face again.
Looks like Godolphin never had a shot, really.
The bookies have seen all they needed to see. They say, let's get out of this folk festival. A little counterculture stab right there. For no reason. Steve is irritated that the ladies are going to get taken advantage of. Suddenly, I don't know why this just clicks with him during the track meet.
Idiot.
He calls out to Blackbeard, who is on the pole vault mat eating a hot dog. He slowly gets up and walks over and hands the relay man the hot dog instead of the baton. And the next
Let me give a shout out to the way that Shelby, because Shelby announces that he's got a hot dog, but the way he pronounces hot dog, did you notice this?
I did not.
It's like, he's got a hot dog.
That does not surprise me.
He says it like 2 or 3 times too. He's carrying a hot dog.
Paul would have done it better.
The next racer gets a pennant, which Blackbeard had as well, which is a pennant and a hot dog. And the final one gets a soda. And the Godolphin man, who was far behind, was the only one who got a good pass. How you feeling, Andy? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of like was nodding off there. I forgot we were recording a
I'm the
podcast.
same way, man. I was just like, why is this taking so long? This is crazy.
Yeah, it was dragging big time.
For me, the thing that drags the most is not the sports shenanigans, although there was too much of that. It's the arguing. There's way too much arguing in this movie from beginning to end.
Yes.
Arguing about the same thing over and over and over. It's just like, we know. Okay. I mean, the sports stuff was dumb, but at least it was, I don't know, kind of funny in ways. But yeah,
maybe if we hadn't just done like, Absent-Minded Professor's Son of Flubber stuff. I think it made me feel a bit different about it. But yeah,
it is definitely the same well they're drinking from for sure.
I got to point out my favorite part of the sports stuff was the confusion in the baton passing area, which leads to
smashing the hot dog on the ground,
where they're like looking and kind of feeling over. It's one of those like police cars trying to get out of the way of each other scenes. It goes on for so long.
I don't know the rules of relay race or whatever, but I felt like if you dropped the thing, you were done.
Yeah, that's what I don't.
You couldn't like turn around and run backwards and then just get a mile.
I think you can. I think I've seen.
You? I mean, I have no idea.
They've dropped it when handing it off. So yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But it does lead to maybe my favorite line of the movie from Shelby/Mel.
Please.
When after they the Godolphin guy is off to the races while these guys are fighting around. And whoever the person is, he's like, so-and-so from Godolphin has taken advantage of the rhubarb and is breaking away from the crowd. Like, I've never heard that phrase before.
Was that Gudger that got it at the end?
It may have been, yeah.
I think it was.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
He would be shot putting.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes.
Mel also has a very disturbing, or Shelby has a very disturbing call as the runner is running out of gas for Godolphin. He's like just loving it.
Yes.
Also, one of the bookies tries to shoot him. The runner for Godolphin.
That was a little dark moment there.
Different time. Blackbeard then carries the runner across the finish line too. An incredible effect. I mean,
yeah,
he's just so bizarre looking, really strange looking effect.
Yeah,
got the hoist going there. That dude probably had to go sit down for a few days after that one.
Well, they've also got like when he sets him down, it's like his feet get traction and he goes running off. But they've got like smoke that comes from his feet as he takes off.
He's all of a sudden super fast now that his feet smoke. I guess he's scared
like
to
Looney
death.
Tune.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But Godolphin wins. Steve is carried off the field and everyone is beyond excited. But we cut back to the inn and Steve is packing up. Blackbeard is trying to figure out why. Steve says after what happened this evening, he has to go somewhere where he can make an honest, fresh start. Steve, man, jeez.
Yeah,
let's take the W, Steve, and chill out.
Fundamentalist household. I don't know what's going on here. Joanna comes in and finds him packing. Evidently, Silky welched on the bet. Steve says he's going to find him and wring his neck. Joanne says, not in your condition, you're hallucinating. I thought it was funny.
Steve gets really triggered by this welshing.
Oh, man.
He's had enough.
It's his code of honor.
It's a man of principle,
It's his Breaking Bad moment. He's done.
He's a man of principles to a fault.
That's right.
True. Blackbeard asks to come along, and he says he'll serve under Steve's orders, to which Steve agrees very heartily. And they march out singing, just leaving Joanne in the room.
that was all right. I laughed a little bit at that.
Yeah. Oh, especially when they cut to like her POV of Dean Jones walking through the lobby, and it's just him singing by himself without music or whatever. That was really funny.
It's good.
It gives me a little bit of remember when they do Garfield minus Garfield? And it's just John Arbuckle just kind of talking to himself, and everyone thinks he's crazy.
Yeah,
That's what I was
absolutely.
kind of thinking of.
That's amazing. So they show up at Silky's. Blackbeard hits the waiter with his own tray, Robert. Yep. It is the sound of that. Just perfect. Blackbeard punches the doorman, then walks over the door, leaving footprints. Strange. What's going on here?
Wait, the black eye process shot, though.
Oh, yeah, well, please.
I mean, okay, so first, there's an edit when he hits him. Like, first they're like compositing his face through the thing in the door. Like, it goes from like where they were really filming through the door to where he's like being, I guess, matted in. I don't know.
Right.
But there's like a jump cut in his just face. And then they do this like wavy process shot where his like black eye appears from nowhere. It's just kind of like, what?
It's just,
and it turns into like wavy. It's like he went through the black hole.
We are entering the darkness of special effects now, unfortunately.
Yeah. But the footprints on the door were really cool.
Those did look cool.
How they did that.
But again, wouldn't you think, Joanna at this point is there?
Yeah. Exactly. Something's happening.
Something is happening more than Steve hallucinating. You saw somebody get punched from air and then steps appear on the door.
Yeah. Well, and the door go flying in by itself.
Too many things.
People don't accept this stuff around here. It's
That's no,
there's gotta be
impossible.
an explanation.
Man. So they get an audience with Silky. He presses the textbook button under his desk. And a bunch of street toughs show up. These guys, man, I tell you, his crew.
He's the tall guy like Papa John Phillips, the gangster.
Papa John Phillips.
Silky offers the $900 back. Says you can take it. It's fine. Give it to the old ladies. You can give it to the bank. No dice. Steve says, come up with the money or I'll take this place apart.
His delivery was real good.
Oh, yeah. At the same time, Blackbeard says, take the money and let the lady try her luck. So Steve discusses this issue with Blackbeard in front of everyone. They show him debating, arguing again. So they go to a roulette wheel, and it starts here. Joanna and Steve are arguing about how to do it, and Blackbeard will do the cheating. At one point, pulling down the toupee of the dealer.
The shot
is just...
Why?
Yes.
Why the slow-mo? Why couldn't it just happen normal?
Yep. It's a slow-mo shot of a toupee coming off the dealer. We're not done.
Got to really sell that shot there, boy. We better slow it down, guys.
I don't know.
I love that
what
Silky has an exclusive, because this is his exclusive gaming room. This is like the high roller room.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're the only people in it.
That's right.
Slow night there at the.
Also,
Very
how big is
exclusive.
the gambling industry in Godolphin that you need a high roller room?
Right. So the dealer calls in another dealer to watch. They can't figure out what's happening. Eventually, they pull their little electric cheek claw on the bottom of the table, and the number doesn't work out that Blackbeard had it in. This whole gag. Blackbeard discovers this and finds the electrical wiring attached to the table, attaches it to the dealer's sock suspenders, and this time when they roll the wheel and the dealer tries to move the ball,
boy.
he gets a bit of a shock. Boys, does somebody want to tell us what happens here?
Michael, you want to do it, or how about Andy? Andy, you want to jump on
Andy,
this?
you do it.
No.
Michael?
Well, again, slow-mo again. Slow-mo again, and then just the with like the Emperor Palpatine lightning animated over their bodies, doing like the little jig, and his toupee goes flying off.
But it keeps going.
And it keeps going. Yeah, because Blackbeard's like keeps pushing the button, and it keeps shocking him. So he's just keeps keeps doing his little jig there.
I mean, the gambling scene alone was stressful. And so then they had these effects on top of it. I was like, oh, this is becoming painful now.
What I hate about this is they all of a sudden they make Pleshette out to be an idiot.
Yeah.
Like she's like, no, I have my system. It's feminine intuition, and she clearly doesn't know how to gamble.
It's like the worst of their dynamic going on.
Yes,
at this point,
it's something they always do when she's in these movies. Is at one point just make her an idiot.
Yeah,
and I hate it. And she's like totally steamrolling him to like lay the chips down and everything in a stupid way. And so it's stressful. That's the perfect word for it.
To that point, while this shock is going on, I mean, they've essentially won the money at this point from this one bet. They grab their chips, and Joanna now is like addicted to gambling. You know, she's like, "Are you on your mind? We're on a winning streak. Think of those old ladies. Maybe play one more.
Double down."
And they're under the clock. They're under they're clock watching.
They gotta
we can save the inn and be filthy rich.
That's right.
They didn't take all their winnings either.
No, well,
that made me crazy.
They're under the top. Yeah,
like, what are you doing?
They're checking out. Steve says that's enough. Let's go before they even take all the cash, like you said. And he's right though, because the goons show up carrying guns. Silky says, "Not yet. I just put down new carpet." While Silky is talking to the couple, this is so ridiculous.
I think this is hilarious.
I do too. I think it's really funny, but so ridiculous. While Silky is talking to the couple, trying to get the money back, Blackbeard is taking the guns off the goons. Somehow they don't know, even though like it's just like out of their front coat pocket, just getting grabbed. Silky says, "All right, boys, make with the muscle." And they pull out their fingers instead of guns. So they just draw their fingers because they don't have any guns. Blackbeard is standing behind the goons, and one by one, Steve shoots them with his fingers while Blackbeard knocks them down with guns knocked to the head.
Steve doing the finger gun thing and Suzanne Pleshette reacting to it is worth a price of admission for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, and even better is like they do that gag a few times, and then one of the goons tries to shoot with his fingers, and Steve says, "Missed me."
Ha! Missed me. Pow!
That really made me laugh. And then he lets Joanne shoot Silky with her fingers, which she does. And it's just
he's like, shoot him.
It's so
she's like, okay.
And so Steve and Joanne are off for the dock. They got to make it. They got to make it back to the inn. Steve punches Silky before he swings an axe, and Blackbeard takes care of the rest, and we see them getting thrown around in the air into all the tables in the casino. We, of course, have a picture going over someone's head, knocking them down, which I always...
That guy had a pretty good take for that.
He did.
The picture over the head. His fall down was pretty good.
We get some scenes of some guys like trying to punch the air. They don't know what they're fighting. And
I love this shot of Silky collapses and the roulette wheel like runs over his like backside and down his back, just like perfectly down his back. That was great.
It's good. Eventually they get thrown into a slot machine, showering the crew with quarters on the floor. So they have been beaten. We cut back to the inn as the bank representative is counting down the seconds until the bank owns the inn. Just at that moment, Joanne and Steve appear in the boat and hand off the purse full of money to the bank man just in one motion, which kind of cracked me up.
Very live and let die, like driving the boat up on the beach there.
The ladies hand the mortgage to Steve to burn in the fire they have outside the inn. And we hear singing. Steve says, "Here's the man you should thank." And we see a rowboat coming up. And we see footprints in the sand. That same cool footprint effect. Mm-hmm. Steve has the ladies do the incantation to materialize Blackbeard. And sure enough, he appears with a thunderclap.
Why didn't he do this before with
Good question.
Suzanne Pleshette?
Good question.
Thank you.
Because he's immediately recognized as Blackbeard.
Yeah.
And he says, Your welcome has touched me deeply. Loath as I am to play the gallant, I have never beheld a concourse of fair creatures that has stirred me more. Which was
And they're like, ooh.
yeah, they are loving it. He goes on and on, receives applause from the ladies, and Steve is doing the look takes. I thought of you, Robert. It's like the look takes are way thick.
Also does the Pleshette handhold. Like she comes over. It's the end of the play handhold move.
Yeah. Blackbeard praises Steve, the young rooster, who he says played a modest part in the events. He takes the mortgage, throws it into the fire, says, I go now to a distant and I hope hospitable shore. Says, I was not all bad.
I was just saying, I wish all mortgages were printed on flash paper.
Yeah,
like
I know.
that one was.
Very.
Because he throws it in and it goes.
He goes up to Joanna and says, look after this boy. He needs help, which I thought was funny. And then says his farewell to Steve. Beware all wenches. The ladies are sobbing and singing for he's a jolly good fellow. Blackbeard boards the rowboat and is off. Steve says, I think I'm going to miss that old scoundrel. Joanna says to Steve, I loved you even when I thought you were nuts.
Wow, that's out of nowhere, but sure.
Yeah, very out of nowhere and inappropriate for the moment and weird. Blackbeard disappears into the mist and we hear the noises of a crew on a ship and we see the shadow of a full ship awaiting Blackbeard and they hoist the mainsail and are off to regions beyond, hoisting their skull and crossbones. And that, my friends, is the end of Blackbeard's ghost.
So Blackbeard doesn't go to heaven or hell. He gets to go to the Queen Anne's Revenge for eternity.
Mm-hmm. Heaven for him. Also, I think probably stock footage from Treasure Island, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
Well, what do we think, guys? Blackbeard's ghost.
First act, pretty good. Second act, nah. Third act, nah.
I'll tell you, the setup for this was so good. I was so excited. And I think I realized that is most of what I've watched in the history of watching this movie is watching that first act. That's what I remember. So I don't remember
funny
the track
that you say that. Like the last time I watched it, was with my kids, and they were watching it. And I watched the first act, and then I was like, "Well, I need to get some work done." So I wasn't paying attention, and I just had it on in the background. But I watched the first act, and I'm like, going, "Okay, well this is. I mean, I need to sit down and really focus on this one," and because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I focused on it this time, and
it's so sad because all the elements of it are great. Like all the actors are perfect, I think.
Yeah.
All like the premise is a good premise. Like the technical side of it is great. The design of it is awesome.
Yeah, I love the design.
And it's like they forgot to write half the script because half the script is just let Peter Ustinov go crazy.
It's really wild, yeah. And then do sports scene.
Yeah, do a sports gag. Yeah, that's sort of.
Yeah. See, I like I said earlier, I personally was not a fan of Peter Ustinov. I thought it was too silly because I went into this not knowing that it was a comedy. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like a kind of scary maybe a little bit of comedy, but not like still have some scary moments. And so when he came in was doing his shtick, I was like, oh, that's kind of took it down for me. It turned into like Drop Dead Fred is what it came.
No, no. Well, I mean, the thing for me is like I always expect him to be silly because he's Peter Ustinov, but at the same time, like the story of the film, I mean, he's supposed like I keep talking about how many people he's killed and how like terrifying he is, and there's nowhere at any point where he seems scary at all. So it's like if you're gonna say he's like the terror of the high seas, and like it'd be one thing if they were like, well, he was actually kind of a phony and it was all just sort of myth making legend, whatever. But then to be like, no, I killed all those people, but I'm gonna eat a hot dog and dance around.
I agree because the fact that they take this despicable human being and try to make him funny and as you pointed out, it bothered me throughout the whole movie.
Yeah,
it's like this movie should have been made in the 80s. They would have known how to make it scarier and keep it funny, Yeah.
Or we could have gotten another Mr. Boogedy. So
that's true. But that movie was not funny, only in unintentional ways. Oh, Andy, you gonna rewatch this one?
Probably not. I think no, I can't imagine the scenario where I'd want to watch this again. maybe the first act, because like you said, the first act wasn't that bad.
Oh,
even though I was let down, it still wasn't that bad.
The setup's all there. Yeah, the first
premise
act
is so good. It's so good.
So once he's arrested, you can be like, okay, that's the end of it. And then just move on.
It should have been the two kids. That now hearing that, it's like that would have been so much better.
Yeah.
So
Make
much
it like
better.
the Hardy Boys or
and
something.
It's like that's right in their wheelhouse. I don't know. They're like, well, we got the sports rig. We got to do some stuff with the kids. I don't know. Oh, well.
Let me ask you a question. Would this work better as a series versus a movie?
Oh, I could see that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is pure 80s sitcom right there.
It could also be like
Are you
episodic. You could have different people bringing back Blackbeard's ghost through the years.
Yes. Like like an anthology where he like helps a different person every week or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
then there's like some kind of catch where he has to stay in limbo until, the end of the series.
Oh, wait.
That's
You know
Quantum
what
Leap,
this
isn't
is?
Yeah.
Huh? Do you remember in the early 90s or late 80s, there was a show on Magical World of Disney called The 100 Lives of Blackjack
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
And that was the plot.
That's right.
This guy could only see this dead pirate who had killed 100 people, so he had to save 100 lives to balance it out. So each week, he was saving the life of a different person and get out of limbo.
There we go. So they did it in the end.
Yeah,
They
who
did
knew?
it. They did it. And they filmed it on the waterways of Walt Disney World.
They really did.
Wow.
I've been waiting for that moment when we got to the 100 Lives of Blackjack
Savage.
It's coming.
Yeah, you could see
It's
it on
coming.
the backstage tour at MGM. So
It's fully coming in all its glory someday. Anything more to say about this movie before we put it to bed this year? It's our Halloween special.
boogity. That's what
I'll give it two boogeties.
I'll give it two
It's better than
boogeties.
Mr. Boogedy, I will say. My gosh.
Yeah, I will say all the elements were there. It just needed a real script. And to let Dean Jones be like charming Dean Jones, not like yelly, arguey Dean Jones. That's no fun.
The first act, he was charming Dean Jones.
Yeah, and then it goes off the rails. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'd never seen this as a kid. I only saw this somehow. I don't know how we never watched it because of Dean Jones and Suzanne Pleshette. I didn't see it till I was an adult, and I had probably the same reaction Andy did. Like I was hard into it at the start because it was all coming together, and then it just kind of loses you as it goes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's about that time to head back into our normally scheduled program with our third animated feature film. Robert, will you do the honors?
Well, I thought about writing something up, but I thought, you know what? I just need to hand this off to my friend. I brought him along with me tonight. Jiminy, do you mind taking us through the next film real quick?
Everyone keeps asking me my recipe for living. It's simple as the ABCs and hardly seems worth giving. I've tried it out in every way. It always sees me through. It's made me what I am today. That's why I'm telling you, I'm a happy-go-lucky fellow, full of fun and fancy-free. You can make the whole world seem mellow if you take it in your stride like me. Don't cross a bridge or peek round the corner until you're there. Just learn to smile, and in a while you'll find trouble's a bubble of air. Get a happy-go-lucky feeling, keep it, and I guarantee that you find you'll wind up living in the sun, full of fun and fancy-free.
Well, there you go. Fun and fancy-free. There it is. A real crowd pleaser in the McSwain home. I think I've mentioned that before.
Oh, I don't think you. Not to me. I don't
my
remember.
Kids love this one. They haven't watched it in a while, but when they were little, it was on heavy rotation, and they found it on their own. Like they stumbled onto it. Like this is great.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought of all the Disney films that really gravitated to.
That is random.
Said everybody.
Very random.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Huh. Interesting. That'd be interesting to see.
Good for them for keeping the vault open, keeping the classics alive, man.
That's right. That's right. I love the animated films, though. I mean, it's good. There's something good in all these package films.
This is the one with Mickey and the Beanstalk, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I've seen that part.
Yeah, this is one that they like split up a lot over the years and would just like cut out like the connecting bits and just like put out Mickey and the Beanstalk by itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. That's how I knew it. I mean, I didn't really know it was a movie until much later. I just assumed it was just a short they made.
Right. I know it's packaged into many a TV thing.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm interested.
I haven't either. All right, so that is a wrap on our Halloween special. This one was suggested by several listeners on Twitter. We encourage all of you to give suggestions. You know where to find us on social media. Keep sending those emails to info@medfieldfilm.com. As a matter of fact, Robert, I hear there's some mail in that old mailbag.
That's right, Jeff. We had some questions and comments come in about our old podcast. One of them was from a listener named Chad. And our old friend Phil chimed in as well. But Chad wanted to let us know that his favorite episode so far, to, I guess, no one's real surprise, is Old Yeller.
Who knew?
Which
Really?
continues to get high marks from our listeners. They love that episode.
That's a good one.
Poor Old Yeller.
It's odd that it's considered one of our funniest episodes.
It is.
Says something about us.
Yes. So,
Plug the podcast, Travis.
You know what?
Started.
Before we get cranked up on poor Elizabeth, I was listening to the Black Hole, and she came out again in that one, and I'm sitting there going, anyone who hasn't heard Old Yeller is like completely out of context. Like, what in the world is going on with these guys? What's like? Why are they talking like this?
I will have to say, I mean, I think this is worth mentioning. I about mentioned this at the start, but this podcast won't be coming out for a little bit yet. But just recently, this last week, Tommy Kirk passed away, sadly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He passed away, and the star of so many Disney movies of this era, and really a great young actor who just life dealt him a cruel turn, but he was a great actor. But I thought it very interesting that his passing was announced on Facebook by Paul Peterson, who was another child actor who was a good friend of his, and said that Tommy in his later years lived in Las Vegas, which I didn't know, and that he was very close friends with who also lived in Las Vegas, who was the person who had shared the news of his passing, the girl who played Elizabeth.
Huh.
So he was still besties with Elizabeth there.
that's-
So
I wonder
thought
if
that
they
was
had
nice.
like the bets like Steve and Joanna had, at the roulette wheel.
Put it all on red, Travis.
I want to gamble my way. I want to bet on.
If we lose the money, they might kill my dog.
So hopefully he kept the water fresh
Yeah.
every time she came over.
That's a big loss, though. In all seriousness,
Yes.
Tommy Kirk was in so many films. I mean, I'm sure we're going to watch a lot more Tommy Kirk in the future.
Yeah,
He's
I hope
just
so. The
unbelievable.
Bifford.
Yeah.
Yep. Phil also chimed in. Back to our mailbag here. Phil, whom we've heard from before, was excited that Son of Flubber was our season premiere. He's a big Fred McMurray fan and said that the scene where Fred and Old Hawk face off is his favorite scene in that movie, where Fred gives the whole "You want to bet?" when Hawk.
Yeah,
threatens
that's
him.
good stuff.
So, I could look at my life and measure it in the time before I had a graphic designer, and back when I used to attempt branding and photoshopping. Is photoshopping even a verb? Seems like something you would do in the olden age. You're going to go do me a little photoshopping. But back when I fumbled through Photoshop as a tool for graphic design, that's a little bit better. And now I have a time where I have a Todd Naprick in my corner. And did you all notice our new social media graphics? Old Todd whipped those up for us the other night. Seeing a gap in our episode rollout, he wanted something a little flashier for the old social media. Now everything is nice and neat on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And that's what having a Todd will do for you, especially a Todd like ours. Todd, who is a night owl and sends us graphics at 3 a.m., that's because our Todd is always trying to make you look good 24 hours a day. He's a machine, but not like a Maximilian machine that'll murder you in your sleep. You wake up to exciting new graphics in your inbox, courtesy of Todd. That's not all. Todd is running a spooky Halloween special to our social media folks. The first 2 people to comment on our episode post with the spell that brought Blackbeard back gets a free full-color back and front business card design compliments of Todd Naprick.
That's a sweet deal.
Oh, man.
The
Go
comments
find-
on it where, though?
Can we comment?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, the comment, like when we do our, we always do it at 9 a.m. We roll out our this is our episode.
Yeah, but where?
But where? Yeah.
I guess tweet it at in the.
Okay.
So they have to be on Twitter to do this.
Yeah,
huh?
well, they don't have to be on Twitter. We'll look at all of them, but the first 2. So if you reply to the Twitter, comment on Facebook or on Instagram.
There you go.
There you go.
That's a good deal, man. Thanks, Todd. Also, I got a little bonus trivia for y'all.
Okay.
In the Haunted Mansion, Disney's Haunted Mansion, you might be aware of the scene where Leota has a seance to summon the swinging wake. Well, if you got close enough to her spell book to see the incantations in her spell book, one of them would be the spell from Blackbeard's ghost that summons Blackbeard.
So leave that answer on social media for us, and you'll get that free business card. Compliments of Todd. Go find him at Upworks or on bindandgraphics.com. That's BYDAND graphics.com. Don't miss out on this opportunity. And if you win, you'll be saying, Todd made me look good for free.
That sounds like an offer that is too
I'd jump on
good
that.
to pass up, folks. Please leave us a comment with that incantation. Don't say it out loud because you might bring somebody back from limbo. You can type it in safely without doing that. But so ends this spooky Halloween special. We look forward to seeing you on November 7th for fun and fancy free. Until then, from all of us to all of you, stay well. We'll see you soon.
Proud are we of mighty Redfield, alma mater dear. All your sons and daughters hail to thee, Redfield College of Technology. And while we hold your banner high, rock, rock, we shout your praises to the sky, rock, rock. We and mighty Medfield, loyal